by the blood of our people are your lands kept safe.
I see in your eyes the same fear that will take the heart of me.
So do all who live to see such times.
By all that you hold dear, this good earth.
There's some good in this earth, and it's worth fighting.
So episode 2 begins with Galadriel swimming, and it's nighttime, and yeah, I guess her plan is just to swim back.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a nod to like elves having, almost like a magical quantity of endurance, or some sort of special skill. But yeah, to swim all the way back, it seems like if she wasn't gonna go through with this, I just don't get on the boat. Why would you do this to yourself?
Mhm. And then Nori and her friend Poppy meet the Meteor Man, and then we have some comic relief of the wheelbarrow rolling away.
Yeah.
So, and then Nori talks about she feels like she was chosen to meet the Meteor Man. I'm like, yes, it's hobbits being chosen again for that special task. That's nice.
Well, and also here, like the thing about that line though is like,
I'm gonna keep calling them hobbits. I don't know if I do this Harfoot thing.
but like the thing about that line, it's like so she says, you know, he must be important. It's like, well, yeah, I mean he he's a meteor man. Like he's not nothing. He's clearly got some magical properties. And as far as these Harfoots are concerned, like that's like, you know, you don't even need to be that grand to be magical to them. Like a lot of things are magical to them.
I mean, I'm just writing down points of interest. I'm not. I guess I wasn't following the plot, but I did note that when Arondir goes through the tunnel, so he's going through the tunnel. Bronwyn's gonna run home and warn the village people that we should we should evacuate.
That's right.
The tunnel, they used that effect that they used on the road with the Black
I noticed
Rider.
that too. I love the callback. I love it.
With it getting narrow, like getting shorter or longer. I can't remember what they did, but
yeah, it's almost like the distance seems to kind of like zoom in on you a little bit.
And then I noted that Celebrimbor admires the dwarves, and Elrond is friends with Durin the Fourth.
Yeah, that was actually something I was not expecting. So based on the trailer, and based on some lines of dialogue from the Hobbit trilogies by Peter Jackson, I was expecting him to go there and become friends. I didn't realize that at this point in time, he had already been there and become good friends. So that was an interesting bit that I was not expecting. I was like, oh, well, how is this gonna, like, how is it gonna be just an easy an easy quest for him to do? Just you know, walk up and say, "Hey, how's it going?"
And they won't let him in, so he uses the rite of Seintorog.
Yeah, and right at that scene, just before he does that, did you catch a little bit of a nod to a Gimli quote where he's saying that they're going to welcome us with malt beer and salted pork? Yeah. I like that. I like that kind of stuff just thrown in there. It makes it feel even more welcoming and more like coming back to Middle Earth.
And this whole rite at Seintorog is a hammer contest. You keep smashing rocks until you give up.
Yeah, which that does make sense to me in some weird dwarf way. Like I get that it's like it's both an endurance and a strength, like it's a feats of strength kind of challenge, and I guess the king would be the best at it based on how
I saw a lot of dwarf women there without beards, Kevin. So
I noticed, but they had facial hair, so they had like
sideburns.
Whiskers. Yeah, they had sideburns and a little bit of whiskers, but not as full as male dwarves. How much does that, as of now, it is a little bit strange, I will say, but I if that's like one of the few problems in terms of the design choice. I can let certain things pass, and I think I can let that go. If that's one of the only ones we see the Meteor Man wake up, and
Okay.
he does that thing we see in the trailer where he kind of like yells, and he like bends.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah.
So like this guy clearly has power, and then that's also where we get the Harfoot snapping his leg.
Right, which
Yeah.
I'm worried about. I feel like
Yeah.
injury like that would kill you in those days.
Now, what I will say though is that I don't know how much help she could have been. Like, there's all these other people standing around, and they're not helping him. So
Yeah, it's nonsense. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, so like, oh, he broke his leg because
Because you weren't there.
like, well, what were you all doing? Just standing around, like, watching this? Like, he's the only one holding up this pole. So
Yeah.
it's to me that was a little bit of a weird. Like, I don't mind the setup of him breaking his leg, forcing them to maybe delay their journey and maybe getting into mischief, but to have that make her feel bad, maybe she's just mad that she wasn't there helping, and she's kind of being irrational, but it's just like a silly thing. Hopefully nobody blames her. Hopefully no one's like, this is all you're doing. Well, you're off gallivanting. He had to lift that pole by himself. And it's like, well, why? Why? You were right there. You just stood by.
It's not my job.
It's not my job. It's your people's job.
And anyway, I noted that Galadriel ends up on that shipwreck. They don't want to help her, but the one woman does, and then there's a lot of hostility towards her being an elf. Even though, and then I don't recall. The woman on the ship looks at Galadriel and says, "You lied." I don't think Galadriel said anything.
No, she didn't.
So I'm like, I wrote down, "You lied."
Yeah. So what I can gather is that I think it was more like they assumed she was human because I guess they had been on a boat with other humans and it got attacked, and so when it turns out she wasn't human, she took that as a lie because they had basically been assuming she was human. But you're right, like Galadriel never said anything. It's not a lie, and I don't get like she pushes her in the water. Like, you lie, push, and it's just like, wait a minute. So your whole plan here is to sacrifice her. So that hopefully the monster is like, full. Doesn't
Yeah.
like-
You led the monster to us. Okay, sure. And the monster they called the Worm.
Yeah, this is an interesting scene. It's not one that I am familiar with from Middle Earth. I assumed there was some stuff in the water.
We didn't really have any aquatic scenes in the.
No.
Well, I mean just the canoeing on the rivers, but not like open water.
Right, like that, like, yeah, you're not finding this kind of thing in that river, I would imagine. But yeah, so this was a pretty scary scene. It kind of reminded me of Beowulf in a way. You remember that movie? Like the Beowulf kind of has a sea monster battle at one point in that movie, and it has very similar elements to it in terms of like you can't really see the full monster. You know what I mean? Like you can see bits and pieces of it at times, and then I really liked how they used the camera work to be above water and then come under the water as it like smashes down into the water.
Yeah.
I thought the scene was filmed very well. And for a water action scene that I was not expecting, to be honest, I thought it was filmed pretty well. Like I knew there was going to be something happen on this water because of the trailers, but I just didn't realize how much of it was going to be kind of happening here.
Yeah, and then the worm attacks,
Yep.
and Halbrand and Galadriel are the only two survivors.
Yeah, so Halbrand, so while Galadriel gets pushed in the water, he separates a hunk of raft from the rest and pushes them off. So
he just lets them go.
Yeah, so in a way, he pushes them like into danger, the same way that they pushed her into danger. But yeah, it's not clear that he would have like not pushed her into the water yet. Like he kind of seems a little rough around the edges, that's for sure.
We find out that Durin is bitter because he hasn't seen Elrond in 20 years, and
Mhm.
that's not a long time for Elrond, but for the rest of us, 20 years is a long time.
So this is actually something that I didn't realize fully. I know dwarves live longer than humans,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't realize that obviously they're not immortal. So I didn't realize that 20 years was a long time to them. I mean, 20 years is a long time. Like, let's be real. But I just didn't realize how significant it would be to a dwarf. So that was an
Mm-hmm.
interesting bit there, and I really like that scene because it does get at the heart of something that
Like elves are out of touch with mortals in
elves
this.
are completely out of touch with the world. Like
Yeah.
they are patrolling
So
this world.
it's a good wake up call to Elrond. Maybe this is
Yeah,
like some
someone
spiritual
who
development
and
for him.
he's an elf. In particular, him, he
Mm-hmm.
actually wants to be very friendly and welcoming of these other races, but even he is out of touch with the dwarves and potentially the humans too. So
Mm-hmm.
I do think that's a nice nod and a nice idea of like world building where even the good elves, they don't fully understand everyone else. Like they are
Mm-hmm.
still a separate creature that is otherworldly in a way.
Mm-hmm. And we finally get to see dwarven hospitality finally. So like Elrond is having dinner
Mm-hmm.
with Durin and his wife, and you see his kids. So you see like dwarfish family life, which is kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah. Now this is actually something that I can't fault the show without faulting Peter Jackson for this because the way he portrays dwarves in in the Hobbit, especially in the Battle for of Five Armies, um, he does portray even the kingly ones to be a bit silly. You know what I mean? Like they come across as a bit rough, a bit kind of goofy, and it's one that I don't know if it holds up in book lore, and especially um Thorin Oakenshield. He's not goofy at all. He
Mm-hmm.
portrays the dwarves in a very stately manner, but we kind of get back to this whole kind of goofy dwarfness, if that makes sense. Which I don't mind. I don't hate it. It's just it's one that I didn't know what direction they were gonna go in. I will say it's nice. This might be jumping ahead just a tad, but we will see some of that more stately dwarf culture coming up, and so I do like that they have that
Yeah,
within this as well.
yeah, and yeah, I noted that Disa does seem to have sideburns.
Yep.
Um,
And she's actually she's a very warm character. Like
yeah,
even if you didn't like the idea of this character, the character itself is the warm, welcoming dwarf that we've been waiting for. Like,
yeah, and she changes Durin's mind about uh letting Elrond hang around a bit and,
yeah, but
and
like
talk.
we keep hearing about how these dwarves are very friendly and welcoming, and there's gonna be endless casks of beer and all this food, and they're just gonna be super like warm and friendly, and we have not seen that ever because we've always had dwarves who are dealing with trauma, so we've
Mhm.
never really dealt with a dwarf that, like you said, we get dwarves in their home, how they hope to be most days, and she's one of the most friendly characters in the entire show.
Mhm.
So I think she does have an energy to her that is a bit infectious, and people are gonna have to really find it hard to keep hating her if they don't like the character to begin with. We do get a quick scene with Galadriel and Halbrand on the boat or on
Mhm.
their little raft, and this is where she finds out that there are orcs like that attacked him.
Exactly, and this is kind of where I make the note that these orcs are showing up right as the elves pull away. It's almost like they were just waiting for the elves to like, okay, everything's fine, we can go. All right, time to come in.
Yeah,
It's almost like they were like lying in wait, just being like, okay, we're just gonna make our move when the elves leave, and as soon as they leave, they make their move.
well, and here's the other thing, and now I don't think I just want this to be clear. I do not think this is happening in this show, but in another show, in say, like a Game of Thrones style show, you might look to that decision and theorize that maybe the king is in on it. You know what I mean? Like it's almost
Yeah.
it lines up so perfectly that you're like, he made a stupid decision, and then that decision is having these huge consequences, and it's like,
So
okay,
I don't even know if he'd be in on it. Like I get what you're saying, and I know you're not saying he's on it because it'd just be out of it for
yeah,
Lord of
it
the
would
Rings.
make zero sense. I am not saying
But
that at all.
but but it's I think the orcs were just like they were just waiting. They knew the elves would leave at some point, and then they're doing it. Like, all right, let's
Yeah.
go. They didn't even give it a week.
No, they literally attack the town like the next day. I do also want to point out just real quick, this is just a silly take, but that sail that they have on their raft, that is
Oh,
not doing a damn thing. As seasoned veteran sailors such as ourselves, that sail is useless. It's not doing
it is,
anything.
and that sailboat can't. It's not. It can't handle a storm like that
It
at
not only
all.
cannot handle storm, they have random things just jutting
Yeah.
off the side, adding weird ballast to it that it's gonna just like be super awkward to handle. Like it doesn't even make sense.
No, I don't think a boat. I mean, I don't make sailboats, but like I know a little bit about sailing. I don't think a boat like that can even work. You would just go the direction of the wind.
Yeah.
You need like you need a keel, you need a rudder, you need somewhat of a boat shape, you need
Yeah.
like triangular sails and
Also, that's what I thought she was making in this scene. So she's pulling at one of these side beams that's like hanging in the water. I thought she was trying to steer the boat.
I thought that was a rudder too, is it not? Because I
No,
was like, what is she doing?
she's tying herself to a piece of wood.
Well, yeah, I remember that, and then that doesn't work out for her at all. It just
No,
creates a scenario where she needs to be rescued.
it's straight
It's
up.
not just it's not just a piece of wood. It's a piece of wood with like a rock at the bottom to make it sink.
which which means that the rock is hanging off the boat and like it's just in the water.
Why do we have this?
Just cut the rock off. I don't know what they're doing with this rock.
No, I
Like
don't know. And she even tries to take him down with her. He's like, "Okay, hold my hand." Luckily, he didn't.
she even is like advising him tie himself to a piece of wood. Okay, glad you stick to the fighting on land because it doesn't make any sense. I do want to
Um,
see what the notes say in this script if that's ever released.
yeah, I wrote that. Galadriel tied self to mast with a rock at the bottom. That's in my notes.
I don't know. I mean, it sets up a fun daring save, but and we're not quite at the storm yet. So she's just tugging at this thing in the scene, trying to warn them, and nobody believes her, and also they like the fact that the elves are gone, and so it's one of those scenes where it's like, you know,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you're screaming at the TV saying like, how can you guys be so like even someone's like, you need proof, and she's like, the town is freaking burned and there's no bodies. Like that is like, go look, just go go look over there. But nope, it's you need proof in this house.
um, yeah. I mean, I didn't write comments about the plot at this point, but yeah, you have the fight with the Theo's just like I don't know, he gets mad and he starts hitting the floor
Yeah, so he
and
thinks he set this up before, like the
with
story's been set up.
mice.
Yeah, he thinks that there's mice like chewing through the floorboards or something like that, and he gets so he's it looks like he's kind of getting a little bit possessed in a way, like
Yeah, 'cause he's really overreacting to mice.
yeah, like
You
he's
know, You're
staring into a fire. He hears the scratching, and then he grabs a fire poker and just starts slamming into the ground. Which, yeah, that's a huge overreaction.
Yeah, you're wrecking your floor. Your
yeah.
mom's gonna come home and be like, "What the fuck did you do?"
Yeah, I mean, luckily for him, there were orcs under there because now he can blame the orcs and be like, they did this.
It wasn't me. It was the orcs.
Yeah, the orcs. The orcs, they just attacked me.
Saved by the orcs.
Yeah.
And then they fight the orc, and he's tough.
Well,
He's a
well,
tough
actually,
fuck.
we do get a quick cut where we are with the Sylvan Elf, and he makes a daring escape through this cavern system,
Yes,
goes into a little pool of water, comes up, and then
he gets grabbed.
he's grabbed by something. Like we're not.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's orcs, but I don't know. It
Mhm.
could be other humans or it could be something else. I don't even know. But yeah, then we get the fight scene with the 2v1 on one orc, and this thing looks terrifying. Like this thing looks pretty.
It's a zombie. It's like impossible to kill. It
Yeah.
doesn't. You can. I mean, orcs are variable. Sometimes you can just like you can knock them down and they're dead, and sometimes they like they're unkillable.
Well, so
only decapitation can kill it.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind too, and I think we're gonna get to this in a future episode where we talk about this, but in terms of like the weaponry, we're clearly these two humans that are fighting this orc, they're using like a little kitchen knife and
household items
like a saw blade, like so. To me, I can see how that might not phase an orc versus like elven blades and dwarf axes. Those I can see just kind of cutting clean through orcs and doing serious damage. But yeah, this orc is tough, and these are clearly, as Gimli would say, like a mindless rabble of orcs. Like this orc is just kind of like foraging in the kitchen for stuff. It's like making a mess and just like looking for. It's very like almost rodentish or ratish. Like it's kind of scavenging around and like scurrying around. I actually really like this fight scene. I mean, I know it's a bad fight in terms of like.
Well, and you have some jump scares here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
and
very
the
much
costume
like
looks awesome. This is something that I was harping on for months now. The orcs look fantastic, and this is our first look at the orcs. And I thought it was very well done in terms of design. Just like it has some sort of bone helmet, like it's like they've got this crazy culture going on that we don't know anything about. It's just a monster, right? Like that's what you're supposed to see this as a monster. You don't even need to know that it's an orc or whatever. Like you could just be like, there's a monster, it's attacking these people, and that's all you need for the scene, and it works perfectly.
Well, that did remind me. I found it odd that Theo is hiding there, and then his mom comes in, and he stays hiding. He tells her to go get help, but then he closes the door back and like, why don't you both leave?
Well, yeah, and like, so I think, yeah, I was kind of confused too. So what it seemed like happened was he was scared that him walking across that area would alert the orc that was directly below. And then his mom, who kind of picks up on that, she thinks by running away that she won't make it. Like this thing might catch her. That's what I think is
she chooses to hide as well.
Yeah, so I think her plan was, look, if I run now, this thing is gonna pop out of the floor and chase after me. But if I duck in here and it pops out, which it does,
maybe it will pass.
Yeah. So I kind of see what they're going for, but yeah, it was very strange. Like the fact that the orc left in the first place. You know what I mean? So the orc comes up out of this hole in the ground, tries to get Theo, but he hides in like a little cupboard that it can't get access to because it's got like a latch. And then it leaves, and I guess it goes back underground to like wait for him to open up. You know, maybe that's what it was doing. Either way, it sets up some good scares for a Lord of the Rings show. I was not. I mean, I knew the orcs were gonna look pretty good and scary, but I didn't realize that they were gonna play that scene like a horror scene. We're peeking out of this door, and then all of a sudden we can't see this orc, and then it moves in front of the door, and you're like, oh god, it's gonna open this door. So yeah, I thought it was a nice pace for the show to take there, because I do want these orcs to feel like monsters. I don't want them to feel like nothing. Just you can take on like 10 at a time. I don't want that for regular humans, especially. Like this, we're not dealing with Aragorn here. We're dealing with two people who have never battled before, which they're gonna have to struggle to fight this thing, and they do.
Yeah, and they're not like Theo's like not he's not a grown man, he's still a teenager.
That's right.
And Bronwyn looks kind of dainty to me out. She doesn't look that strong.
Yeah,
so
now she might be a little bit strong because she is hauling that water up the well all the time. But yeah, it's hard to tell. But even if she is strong, the orc's gonna overpower
be stronger.
her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the other thing I noted. Okay, I'm jumping forward a scene.
Okay.
So Nori and her friend, Poppy, they're going back to the Meteor Man, and they're holding the lanterns. And people were commenting on these. Like, I saw a few videos of people commenting on how that type of lantern would never work. Holding it out like that, you're gonna hurt your hand. It's not fire in there; it's fireflies. So
Wait,
this does work.
Did people think it was fire?
They thought it was fire, and they thought you can't. That lantern would never work. You can't hold the lantern like that. The heat will burn your hand. This was another point people were making fun of. They're saying this is a stupid prop, and
well, they were wrong.
They're wrong. They're fireflies. That presents other problems. But
yes.
how are they gonna catch all these fireflies and turn into a lantern?
Yes, I mean, perhaps they have ways of luring them in there with maybe like food or something for the fireflies.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, you're right. Like I even if it were fire, I can still see past it, but I didn't think it was fire. I thought there was either, well, it turns out to be fireflies, but that was one of my thoughts. But also, I thought it could be some sort of luminous plant that grows, like, I don't know, like there's a bunch of things that it could be in terms of, like, this is a fantasy world after all. But yeah, it's stuff like that where people are picking it apart, where it gets a little bit ridiculous. Like, the lantern is not a major plot device. It just if it happened to be fire.
And then all the fireflies die from Meteor
So
Man.
that's like, so we get a couple clues here, right? So now that I think that's the last scene of Meteor Man. Yes, so that is the last scene of Meteor Man for now. We get his arrival, which we hear the black speech, and the leaves start getting a little bit. They get that kind of black sludge look. It could be blood. I don't know what it is, but some sort of black goo. We get the reference that his fire is cold.
Oh, I don't remember that. Okay,
so
that's
when she first meets so we kind of skipped this. I didn't want to talk about it until now that we're at the end here. But when she first meets the Meteor Man and she's kind of going up to that pit of fire, I was like, wait a minute, that's a pit of fire. Like, why is she gonna go into that?
It's not burning her. Okay.
It's not burning her. She's like, it's not hot. She says those words. So we've got the fire's not hot. His arrival made
it's Sauron for sure then.
And him talking to fireflies killed them. Unlike Gandalf, who talked to a moth and it made it all the way to the eagles. So
yes, so this is not an Astari. This is
not
Sauron.
Gandalf. People were saying this is Gandalf.
Or a blue wizard.
Or a blue wizard.
But it's not. It's definitely not. Unless these blue wizards are a bit kookier than the wizards we've seen.
See, I always thought the blue so maybe this is just my misunderstanding of the blue wizards, but I actually thought that they were just so good. Like, they wanted to blend into the human world so well that they were almost like they were just indistinguishable. Like, they were just there, but just no one knew that they were wizards. Because, like, that's the whole. You're not supposed to run around being like, I'm a wizard. Like, you're supposed to sort of be there to help guide, but, like, not take over in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think there's something to be said there about how his presence affects things. Um, and I guess real quick, we can kind of touch on this is where we see. I don't know if they named the character yet. I believe this is during the third, but
Yeah.
so his father. So they are kind of breaking some
Yeah.
lore there, but his father, that's the stately dwarf style that I actually was missing when I saw Peter Jackson's Hobbit trilogy, and we see the dwarf army come. They kind of play it almost for laughs in a way. Like the dwarves are just very, like they're skilled warriors, but they're just very kind of goofy characters.
Yeah.
This guy is a clever, stately dwarf that is trying to make sure that he doesn't lead his people into some folly, and I think that's commendable, but also it's kind of screwing up because we know that Elrond is not doing anything nefarious, so we're hoping that Durin the Fourth can convince his father that he can trust the elves. But
that actually had me thinking too. Like, they're really like Elrond. Just like he's given a task. He's like, I'm gonna get it done. Like Celebrimbor getting like a special forge. I mean, that's not life and death, and they're really going out of their way. Let's build an alliance with dwarves so that we can do this.
Well, the thing is that I think they tried to set this up as in like, oh, Elrond thought it would be easy, and he even up until the point that they were actually hammering rocks, I think he thought it was easy, and it wasn't until they were on that lift that he realized that oh, this guy's mad at me for something. And even I'm sitting there going like, how the heck does Elrond not know that this guy's mad at him?
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out he's missed both his wedding and the birth of his children. And I was just wondering, like, did Elrond get these memos or messages or no? Like, you know what I mean? Like, was he even invited? Like, how is he? Because even if Elrond is like, oh, 20 years, that's not too much. Like, I can see them later. I don't know. It just kind of seems weird if Elrond got, say, 3 messages: my wedding, my first kid, and my second kid, and Elrond ignores all of them. That doesn't strike me as Elrond. So that part was kind of strange to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the end. We do see potentially the Morgoth blade, unclear because the blood seems to activate it and reforge it. I'm not sure how big it got because I was trying to see it on the character at the very last shot there as he's walking away. I couldn't see it, so I don't know if it got super big or if it just was like a short sword or something.
But yeah, that made me think like, because these humans were they were evil, right? So maybe this is like some it's an old relic from the days of Morgoth, and like some human like used to wield this sword or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why. Like, I have no idea what this thing could be.
Like maybe the elves are right. There is still some sort of cult of Morgoth active among the humans in this village, and
but even if they are right, they still choose to leave. Well, at least the king does. So it's still.
Some of them are maybe, yeah. I don't know. You're right. Yeah. I don't know. And Arondir comments that he's been posted there for 79 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you think about there, he's been there. He's seen humans live full lives, like birth to death.
Yeah, everyone he met when he first got there is most likely dead. Maybe one person has survived.
Maybe a couple, yeah. Like who were little kids when he was there, or babies, yeah.
Yeah, like someone who was just born as he arrived there. They might live 79 years, but odds are against them.
Yeah, especially in this time, yeah. And this doesn't look like a very prosperous village, No. Yeah, everyone looks like leather except for like one kind of good-looking woman who is in a relationship with an elf.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that about wraps up at least our breakdown of the first 2 episodes.